Celtic are back on the road in Europe, and this time the journey takes the hoops to Italy as the Europa League campaign gets moving again after what feels like a long and uneasy pause. There has been plenty of anticipation building around this one, not just because of the opposition, but because European nights always seem to ask different questions of this Celtic squad. Bologna await later today, and there is a real sense that this match could shape the tone of what lies ahead in the competition. Away from the pitch, the conversation among supporters has been dominated by the expected arrival of Thomas Chavanchara. Nothing has been made official yet, but all signs point to the striker being on his way, and the details emerging around the deal make it an intriguing one. Celtic are set to cover his full remaining salary until the end of the season, a figure understood to be around €1 million in gross terms. At his parent club, his earnings rise to close to €2 million per year, so this represents a significant commitment, but also a calculated one. What really sharpens interest is the inclusion of a purchase option for the summer, believed to be set at €8 million, which works out at just under £7 million. That kind of figure feels realistic in the current market, and more importantly, it gives Celtic control over what happens next. This is not a short-term loan with no future attached. There is a clear pathway here if things go well, and that alone makes it a smarter piece of business than some temporary moves seen in recent seasons. The feeling around the player himself is cautiously optimistic. He is said to be highly motivated and arriving in good physical condition, keen to turn the page on what has been a difficult spell in his career. There have been challenges off the pitch, including unresolved issues from a previous spell abroad where wages were not paid as expected. All of that feeds into the sense that this move is being viewed as a genuine fresh start. At just 25 years of age, there is still time for him to rediscover the form that once made him so highly rated. There is also an understanding that expectations need to be realistic. He is not being framed as a miracle solution to every attacking problem, and that matters. The manager has been careful to point out that while he has presence and pace, he is not simply a target man and should not be burdened with carrying the entire weight of the season on his shoulders from day one. Given his recent lack of regular football, it would be a surprise to see him thrown straight into the starting 11 immediately, even though the need for goals is obvious. Looking beyond that deal, there is an acceptance that further reinforcements may need to wait. The message from inside the club is that there is no appetite for bringing in players simply for the sake of numbers. The focus remains on quality and on players who will actually contribute rather than adding depth that sits unused. That approach may test patience as the window moves on, especially with the deadline in early February creeping closer, but it reflects a clear strategy rather than panic. There has been some movement on the fringes of the squad as well. One of the younger players has moved on permanently after a loan spell elsewhere, a step designed to give him regular football and a clearer pathway in his career. At the same time, there has been reassurance that key midfield figures are settled and keen to stay, despite interest from abroad. That stability could prove vital as the season reaches its most demanding phase. On the coaching side, a familiar face has joined the backroom staff, bringing experience both as a former international goalkeeper and as a coach. His role is expected to span across the development side and the first team, adding another layer of expertise without disrupting the existing structure. Importantly, there is continuity in key positions, which should help maintain consistency in training and preparation. All of that forms the backdrop to tonight's challenge in Bologna. The match takes place at the Stadio Renato Dallara, a ground steeped in history, having opened its doors in 1927 and recently updated to meet modern standards. With a capacity of 36,000, the atmosphere is expected to be intense, especially with around 3,000 Celtic supporters making the trip. Italian stadiums often create a sense of distance between the stands and the pitch, but they can still feel hostile when the home crowd finds its voice. Bologna themselves come into the game with mixed domestic form, having struggled for consistency in recent weeks. Their league results at home have been particularly uneven, with several defeats raising questions about confidence levels. In Europe, however, their story has been far more solid. Since an opening defeat on the road, they have picked up points steadily, showing resilience and an ability to manage games, which has put them firmly in contention for a top-8 finish in the group. They have a young and energetic squad, led by a captain well known to Scottish football fans, and there is no doubt they will see this as an opportunity to assert themselves. On paper, they are favourites, but there is a sense that they may be more vulnerable than the odds suggest, especially if the pressure from their own supporters begins to build. From a Celtic perspective, the squad available for selection is largely fit among those eligible, with a few notable absences, meaning adjustments will be required. The manager has been clear that certain online rumours can be dismissed and that key defensive options are ready to play. With the new striker not yet registered for European action, the attacking setup will rely on familiar faces, and there may be echoes of the approach that worked so well in a previous away performance on the continent. As kickoff approaches in the early evening, this feels like one of those European nights where belief and organization could make the difference. Celtic have shown domestically that they are harder to break down, and if that solidity travels, there is every chance of making this a difficult night for the hosts, setting the stage for what comes next. As the focus shifts fully onto the match itself, there is a growing sense that this is a night where Celtic can test their progress under the current setup. European away games have not always been kind in recent seasons, but there has been a subtle change in the way this team approaches these occasions. There is more patience without the ball, more discipline in the defensive shape, and a clearer understanding of when to press and when to hold. That balance will be crucial against a Bologna side that likes to dominate possession, especially at home. Bologna's recent European results show a team that knows how to manage moments. They do not always overwhelm opponents, but they stay in games and punish mistakes. That makes concentration absolutely vital for Celtic, particularly in the early stages. An early goal for the home side could shift the mood inside the stadium very quickly, while a solid opening period from Celtic could start to create anxiety in the stands. That psychological battle often defines these nights as much as the football itself. There is also an interesting contrast in styles. Bologna are comfortable playing through midfield and building patiently, but they can be exposed when pressed aggressively and forced into quicker decisions. Celtic's midfield, led by experience and energy, will have a huge role to play in disrupting that rhythm, winning second balls, slowing the tempo when needed, and choosing the right moments to break forward could open up opportunities that may not be obvious at first glance. In attack, Celtic will likely rely on movement and fluidity rather than a fixed focal point. Without a recognized new striker available, the responsibility will be shared across the front line. That can sometimes make the team less predictable, with wide players drifting inside and midfield runners arriving late into the box. It places a premium on timing and decision-making, especially on the counter-attack, where one accurate pass can turn defense into danger in a matter of seconds. Defensively, the emphasis will be on staying compact and avoiding unnecessary fouls around the box. Italian sides are often clever at drawing contact and making the most of set pieces, and Bologna are no different. Celtic's centre-backs will need to be switched on at all times, communicating constantly and dealing with crosses decisively. The goalkeeper's role will also be key, not just in shot stopping, but in organising the line and relieving pressure when the opportunity arises. One factor that cannot be ignored is the travelling support. 3,000 Celtic fans in Italy will make themselves heard, and players often speak about how that presence gives them an extra push in difficult moments. When the legs start to tire and the game becomes stretched, hearing familiar songs in a foreign stadium can sharpen focus and lift energy levels. Those small margins often decide whether a team holds on or fades late on. There is an awareness, too, that this match sits within a wider context. While European results matter, domestic priorities are never far from the surface. An important league fixture looms at the weekend, one loaded with pressure and expectation. Balancing those demands is part of the challenge for the squad and the manager alike. Rotation options are limited, so managing minutes and avoiding injuries will be in the back of everyone's mind, even as full attention is given to the task in front of them. That does not mean this game lacks importance. On the contrary, a positive result here could ease some of the tension and inject belief into the group. Even a draw would keep Celtic competitive in the group and reinforce the idea that they can go toe-to-toe with strong sides away from home. Confidence, once built, has a habit of carrying over into other competitions, and that momentum can be priceless. At this stage of the season, tactically, patience will be tested. There may be long spells without the ball, moments where Celtic are forced to defend deep and absorb pressure. The key will be resisting the urge to chase the game unnecessarily, staying organised, trusting the shape, and waiting for the right openings will be far more effective than trying to force the issue. European football often rewards calmness over chaos. Bologna, for all their quality, are not invincible. Their recent home form domestically shows a team that can be rattled, particularly if things do not go according to plan. If Celtic can frustrate them, slow the tempo, and perhaps nick a goal, or even just threaten regularly, that unease could spread quickly. The longer the score stays level, the more the balance of pressure may shift. Individual battles will also play a major role. Midfield duels, aerial contests, and one-against-one situations out wide could all swing the game. Celtic's players will need to be brave in possession, willing to take responsibility rather than simply clearing their lines. Retaining the ball, even for short periods, can be a form of defense in itself and allow the team to reset and breathe. As the clock ticks down towards kickoff, there is a familiar mix of nerves and excitement. European nights carry a different weight, especially away from home, but they also offer the chance to surprise people. Celtic have done it before, often when expectations were low and belief came from within the dressing room rather than from outside voices. Whether this ends with a draw, a narrow defeat, or something more memorable, the performance itself will say a lot about where this team is right now. It will show how far they have come in terms of resilience, organization, and maturity on the European stage. And with so much still to play for in the weeks ahead, every minute, every decision, and every moment tonight feeds into a much bigger story that is still being written. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. Whispers are starting to swirl across Scottish football circles as Utrecht's head coach drops a bold hint ahead of their clash with Celtic. Speaking with a mix of defiance and quiet confidence, the Dutch manager declared, "Their stadium doesn't scare me. We're going for the win in Scotland." The remark, brief but loaded with intent, has already stirred speculation among fans and pundits alike. Celtic Park, famed for its roaring support and intimidating atmosphere, has long been considered a fortress by visiting teams, yet Utrecht's boss seems undeterred, signaling a tactical ambition that goes beyond simply surviving the visit. Observers are now left to wonder what strategy the Dutch side might employ, whether they'll sit deep and counter or arrive with an audacious attacking plan designed to catch the home side off guard. In Scottish media, the statement has been dissected and debated, with some interpreting it as mere bravado, a psychological tactic aimed at unsettling the Celtic squad before kickoff. Others argue it could indicate genuine belief in Utrecht's current form, hinting at a squad confident enough to challenge one of Scotland's most dominant teams on their own turf. Either way, it has undoubtedly added an extra layer of intrigue to the upcoming encounter, giving fans something to chatter about long before the first whistle. Speculation isn't limited to tactics alone. There's also talk around team selection, with whispers suggesting that Utrecht may field an unexpectedly aggressive lineup, perhaps prioritizing pace and width to disrupt Celtic's rhythm. Meanwhile, supporters of the Scottish side have responded with a mixture of amusement and determination, promising to ensure that the atmosphere at Celtic Park remains as formidable as ever, proving ground for any visiting side bold enough to announce their intentions so openly. Regardless of whether Utrecht's declaration proves prophetic, it has set the stage for a clash that promises to be about more than just goals and points. It's a contest laced with psychological warfare, narrative tension, and a healthy dose of bravado, elements that make football the theatre of unpredictability it so often is. All eyes will be on the pitch to see if words can match action and whether Utrecht's fearless claim will stand firm against the weight of history and the roar of Celtic fans. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.